All right, welcome to Break Your Fingers Laughing. We're here with Ewah and the Vision of Paradise, or do you just go by Ewah now? I see it in different variations.
I've done a few solo shows recently,
okay.
so that's possibly why. And look, let's face it, it is rather a mouthful, so some people probably can't be bothered spouting the whole Vision of Paradise. But
So Ewah then is yourself, and we've got, I guess then, Ewah, Stuart, Paul, and Charles.
Well done.
See, I did remember it.
Yeah.
I'm Owen.
Winston Churchill, look out.
So it's your kind of solo thing with a band, or do you try and mix it up as a in between, or is it a band and then your solo spins out of it?
For a long time, I performed solo and moved down to Hobart like about 3 or so years ago, and really wanted to form a band around a suite of songs that I'd written. So I guess like across like my musical wanderings, I've had different projects and different kind of concepts or something with each kind of era of Ewah, and this is like the Vision of Paradise era with a band. So these days if I perform solo, there's a little bit of Vision of Paradise in there. There's back catalogue as well as other kind of stuff that doesn't fit within the purview of what we're kind of doing with this project.
All originally from Tassie, or have you just supplanted yourself there?
Well, yeah, so I'm originally from Tassie, but I was in Melbourne for a decade and moved back with Emma 3 years ago, and these guys are all from Tassie as well, and grew from that, yeah. How
do you find it trying to be a band in such a small place?
I reckon it's great. It's actually, I think, a lot easier just to get around. Like, we're stuck in traffic getting across here. But when we were playing in bands in Melbourne, organising rehearsal rooms, rehearsal space, shows, it was a bit more of a logistical nightmare. But playing down...
come on, it wasn't a nightmare.
It wasn't a nightmare. But
no, it is a nightmare. I'm in that boat right now.
Still smarting from the trip over here. But like in Hobart, it's easy to get around. We rehearse at home, so we've got our own space. We don't have to lug gear to rehearsal rooms.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
There is a pretty healthy music scene down there as well.
That's
like for
where I
a
was gonna
small
go next,
community, there's a lot going on and a lot of variety in terms, anything from a really very strong underground kind of metal scene and some people who are doing like world tours and stuff, through to kind of sloppy indie stuff, through, and there's festivals, a lot more festivals.
Because the Nation Blue is our Tassie band, right? When you say metal and world tours, I know
there's a lot of kind of expats, if you will, here in Melbourne.
A big metal scene actually that's really big in Norway. So. And across there, so bands from the northwest that really don't play at home, but are sort of
You have to say that with your
say
that again with your psychroptic.
So, what is it about Tassie and Norway that generates metal music? I must say though that you guys don't play metal music, so this is a total side note. Yeah,
really comfortable.
But I have to say, there is like in Hobart, there is a kind of a distinctive sound. I feel like this kind of like this massive mountain that kind of casts a big shadow over the town, and it's a cold climate. We're isolated down there. Those things kind of work for you and against you, and I think there is a really kind of distinctive voice amongst kind of that sort of that harder rock scene, like Nation Blue or like even Heart Beach. Like they're kind of a little, they're a sweet sort of beach pop band, but they actually have quite a kind of monotonal kind of voice almost. Like there's a lot of kind of, I guess, resistance against melody has been kind of a bit of a hallmark for many years.
Speaking about your stuff, it's absolutely not a resistance to melody, but they're very luscious melody and a lot of depth to what your sound is. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but it's kind of got this airiness to your melodies, and the melody's more of a not short and sharp. They're kind of long and pretty. Is that a nice way to say that?
It's delightful. So I guess like I have been kind of guilty or whatever for a number of years of kind of resisting melody and stripping things back to their kind of leanest sort of qualities. And with this project, I wanted to write more kind of pop kind of songs and embrace melody a bit more, because it's something I've always kind of been, I don't know, coy about in some way, I guess, but wanted to embrace it. It's got a bit of a bad
rap, I suppose, melody, because it's so pop. You want to try and veer away from being too dumb with your melody, maybe.
Yeah. It's all about context as well. So the instruction to the band, or the direction Emma gave to the band, was to put that melody into a landscape.
Okay, yeah.
And so that's a kind of a feature of particularly the key sounds that Charles brings, and then of course the rhythm section's actually it's still quite driven.
Landscape is the perfect word, isn't it? It's like a sonic landscape. I don't know where I've heard that before.
That's good, and that's kind of the brief that we gave to the mixer for the album. Okay. Everything Fades to Blue, Rob Long, and we kind of had, like, he talks in equal, nerdy technical stuff that is bewildering, and also he has an ability to talk in this kind of abstract stuff and kind of hook into, like, if I say, it needs to be dusty, he'll kind of go, okay, right, and then do the text speak and work that. But we had kind of up front, before going and doing the mixing, conversations about how it would be this wide open kind of landscape and swirling kind of, ephemeral. And so he's kind of done a lot of that with reverb, and there's also this quite tough, these guys, like the rhythm section in particular, is quite meaty and it's quite sinister, I guess.
Thunderous.
It can be, actually. What's your musical influence on that? Because I'm listening to it and thinking, I can hear your influences, but I don't know what they are. I'm recognizing pieces that you've taken from wherever, but I don't know what it is.
I think that's almost like a disability of mine in a way. Like, if I heard like a David Bowie song, for example, and then tried to reproduce it, I would think it sounds like David Bowie, and someone else would say, "Oh, that really sounds like Peaches," or you know what I mean. Like it comes out different. It goes in and it looks and sounds different when it, gets
Isn't
regurgitated.
Isn't that an ability, not a disability?
I don't know. It's just the way it works. But I don't know what was kind of going through your mind, or
I think for the record, if again what we're thinking about that landscape, it's the Triffids were really front of mind, I guess, in terms of the sounds of that record, and that's captures another part of the country, but it's sort of representative of the place. But I guess it's the advantage, of the band as well, and Emma's approach with the songs that she brought to us, is that we all actually have quite different perspectives on music, and are sort of bringing those. A lot of my people would claim some of my bass lines are pinched from Spiritualised, but you wouldn't really hear Spiritualised or Space for Three in our music necessarily, but
a little bit. But no, I wouldn't have jumped to that one.
Myself.
So,
I tend to look at things differently. I don't listen to a lot of music, and for me, it was about discovering the keyboard I was playing and figuring it out. You try and voice just below, where the melody is, the contour of the melody, and you voice just below it. Like there was 64 sounds on this little keyboard, and I was learning how to play it.
Yeah.
And only six note polyphony, so you can't. If you hit the seventh note, it subtracts one off.
So you've put a limit to yourself in doing that.
Yeah,
right? So a lot of bands talk about that and saying, you can have any sound you want, but really that's a bad thing. It can be.
Yeah, exactly. I like most keyboard players you'll see nowadays, they play the ubiquitous, red Nord, which is just a sort of approximation of a bunch of the best electromechanical. But in this band, through, I think, kind of no choice of mine, as in I had no money to buy anything like that, but I was given this old 1985 Roland Juno many years ago, and
you say that like it's a shitty old piece of crap keyboard.
Well,
it's one of the most well-renowned keyboards ever made.
But when I was given it, like in 2004 in a previous band, I never thought much of it. The drummer said, "Oh, hang on, here you go." And I think I used to play one droney note on it in that band.
Why would you want to make music if you don't listen to music?
Well, I don't actively seek it out like I did. I mean, I was a real CD buyer. Yeah. And I got all those CDs and packed them up and put them in tubs under the bed. And then, you know, I embraced the digital thing and filled up hard drives. And then one computer breaks and it's like your life gets busy and then it's like you don't have a computer anymore and your music's sort of
all over the place. Yeah. But going back to that Juno thing, something I did notice about when we saw you in Tassie last year was the gear you guys use, especially your guitar. That was just my whole focus for that whole show. It's just such a beautiful white Gretsch. Is that a core part of your sound as well, what you actually use? Does that help you bring out those melodies or those lush kind of textures?
I think so, but yeah, probably by default. I mean, I did actively buy a hollow body because I wanted a big, full, warm, deep sound. Those sounds are kind of attractive. But I guess, and Paul's kit has become you probably should talk about the drum kit because that was an accidental thing.
And that was the same kind of thing. It was just the equipment that I had, and it's a Ludwig Rocket 2. Right. It's got these big toms from early 90s. But it's just become kind of part of the sound, part of our rhythm section sound, big and boomy. Yeah.
So is it almost then like this is a coincidence? That you just happen to like a big hollow body sound, you just happen to have a Juno, you just happen to have a big kit that sounds really heavy.
They said, let's join the band, and Paul and I were like, I've got a keyboard, hang on, I'll have to, it's down the shack on an island off Tasmania, I'll go and get it, kind of thing. Because it was either that or the only other thing I own is like a Fender Rhodes, and I'm sure as hell not going to drag that bloody thing around it.
I guess probably another thing worth mentioning is that to begin with, I'd recorded all the songs as electro demos with string parts and like big kind of meaty like taiko drums, or like you talk about the suite of whatever is available through like a MIDI thing. Yeah. So I was bringing electro drum beats and synth parts and some bass kind of lines, and that was the demos that I brought to the band. So we probably have transposed, and these guys have brought their own thing to it as well, but that was like a launching point. So that's probably a different way as well for a trad kind of rock lineup to approach a song.
Another thing with the drums as well, that we started out and we were rehearsing at your house. It was a pretty small space and we were trying to keep it pretty quiet, and I had no cymbals and pads on the drums and was kind of trying to emulate these electro sounds.
So that's another limitation that you not necessarily chose to have, but it became a part of your sound. Yeah. So what about bass then? You're not playing like a Rickenbacker or something nice and bright.
No,
it has to be.
No, I'm probably the boring one out of the sort of quartet. So my setup's pretty straightforward. Classic P bass. But I did go and buy a white one to kind of
to match
the Gretsch. But that's really, apart from that, the unique sound of the Gretsch, the drums and the keys. It's that I'm the boring old bass player.
It gets such a bad rap of just being that boring little solid old thing that just sits in the back and goes there, chugs along. Yeah. As soon as you take it out, the band falls apart. And
Agreed.
It's gone. Yeah.
So I will take my modesty hat off and say, but the parts themselves in the songs, because again we're playing with one guitar, and that's been a deliberate choice. We often get people say I can hear the second guitars, and that's a good thing. We don't need to put them there then if you can hear them. Yeah. And so the bass, drives a lot of the momentum of the songs with Paul, which gives that space. So I completely agree. Martin Casey and the Bad Seeds, and again, banging on about the Triffids as well, I think is an amazing bass player, and he's at his best when he's doing really solid, repetitive
boring
things.
Technically boring, but
driving and melodically. He's
exactly.
a brilliant bass player. Yeah. The bottom end of the band is really important because it's working in opposition as sort of a dichotomy, I guess, like between that and this kind of ethereal, kind of pretty sort of more angelic kind of thing. It's like this kind of tough, dirty thing that's just...
So where did you record that album?
At a place called Red Planet Recording in Hobart.
Okay.
So, you know, just a door...
Yeah.
The pretty nondescript door to this kind of upstairs terrace. It's got this console that was from Kenny Rogers' tour in the 70s or 80s or something like that, without maligning it in any way. It's quite a dingy,
basic, yeah.
you know, unassuming recording space in Hobart, but with some really great personnel there who are really into it.
Yeah, because it sounds like it's a tricky sound. Your sound is that lush that it can easily just get away from you in recording.
Yeah, they're quite dense rooms, I guess, and a bit of separation as well between instruments.
There's a drum isolation room, and I think Stuart went in there. The bass is just DI'd. I think in mixing they might have run it through an amp. The keys were just DI'd. And the guitars were captured live. So Emma and I were in the other side. So yeah, two controlled spaces like that. Then with a door into the...
I guess, yeah, if you're just DIing half the band, then the only separation you need is the drums and the guitar, and then like his vocals happens later. So,
we did have a shit ton of amps happening though. There was like a Leslie and a Music Man and a Vox and a Fender Blues Deluxe options.
What did you do to the Leslie? I didn't pick that up.
So it's kind of textures, really.
And we didn't do many overdubs, except we did do overdubs with a Hammond on a couple of occasions. That was live as well, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's a pretty live
and
album.
So with the Leslie on that,
it's just we had
sound.
all the guitar kind of going through a few amps, and there was maybe just some feedback and stuff, kind of oscillating sort of sounds, kind of just textures and. Yeah, more of that landscape, I guess. A Wall of Sound that is on Endless Love, which is our latest single. Yep.
This is a beautiful segue. Because the album came out maybe a month or two ago?
Earlier this year, 2017, so Feb.
Oh, okay.
This year.
So about 5 months ago, 6 months.
We watched it in Melbourne a few months ago.
Yeah, we kind of... this is kind of, symptomatic of being an indie band, is like you just kind of... And trying to travel and get the budget together. You do it when you can, I guess.
Yeah. So you've just released the single, though, Endless Love. So then you're in Brisbane for Big Sound.
Yep.
So is it from here to Brisbane, or is there something in between, or what's the plan?
So we have another show supporting Link Lefevre in Hobart, and then up to Brisbane. We're pretty excited. We haven't played in Brisbane before, so it'd be nice on the sunny side of Australia.
Well, there's beautiful sun right now.
Yeah.
It's fucking freezing there. Where in Brisbane are you playing as part of Big Sound? What venue?
So the Brightside stage.
Cool.
I don't really know what we're getting into, but it sounds like it's going to be great. I've never been to Big Sound, never played in Brisbane, but so it should be fun. Yeah. I reckon to go up there. A couple of other Tassie bands are with us, so again, it's good to represent. So here and then back down home and then back up to Brisbane. So
what's the overall plan then? Are you going to try and keep doing a few singles, tour a bit more, or how's that cycle looking for you? Have you got that vision of the next album already?
And that's the thing, is like we've got a few songs that are out there in rotation for shows and stuff, but just it's been quite a busy year, so just trying to find time to really get to the nut, and crux of these songs and really kind of get them where they need to be. Is the next thing I'd really like to focus on. Is getting the second album together.
Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Pleasure. This afternoon already, isn't it? But thank you for coming in. All the best.
Thank you very
Thanks so much for having us.
Break your fingers laughing.